Hello folks, welcome back to Reality Check with Arvind Swaminathan. This is part 2 of the Modi impact. Now last time I didn't mention this too much because this was missing. We managed to find one just to show you. This is a US or American dollar. What is it? A piece of paper. And it's got a picture on it which doesn't even look nice. Now, if that had been a nice bikini-clad wench, nice looking and so on, at least you want to look at it. But this, all it is a piece of paper. It has no gold to back it. And yet, the Rothschilds tell us every day that this can be exchanged for 82 rupees, or £1, or €1, or something like this. Now, why? Who gave them that right? Now you understand the name of the game. They're trying to save the value of this thing, this. Because if Modi stays another term, the rupee will gain ascendancy and the hegemony of the dollar will have gone. Why? Well, a lot of countries are now aware of the fact that the Americans use the dollar for blackmail. Anybody with dollar reserves, they're in serious trouble. They better toe the American line or else. This is why they don't want Modi around, because he decides that India has its own way of looking at things and its own policies towards different countries. Which, of course, the Americans don't like, nor do the Rothschilds. Now, what are they trying to do? You've got the CIA, you've got George Soros, and you've got the Rothschilds. They've started their campaign of, what should I call it, misinformation, disinformation, or just outright lies. Why? Because they want to see a pappu like Rahul Gandhi as Prime Minister of India. They can get whatever they want out of him. A little money in an account in the US or in Switzerland will suffice. Because Rahul Gandhi and co. are for sale. They have been, or that family has been for sale since before 1947. Now what has happened? Nobody wants to listen to that silly clot in India, so he goes to Cambridge and makes all sorts of allegations. And then of all things, Chatham House invites him. One thought that they were full of intellectuals. Are they that dopey that even they can't see through this? I mean, Rahul Gandhi says, for instance, that he's not allowed to talk in Parliament. Who said so? I mean, when is he there? Look, the entire winter session, he didn't even bother to attend. He was on walkabout in India. The most important annual session, the budget session, he decides he's still on walkabout. He pops in for a couple of days and pops out again. And when he is there, he comes out with something so ludicrous, it isn't even funny. I mean, do we have to listen to silly things like this? He wanted a joint parliamentary commission on the Hindenburg case and the Adanis. Why? SEBI was there as the regulator to look into it. So was the Reserve Bank of India. Why didn't he approach them? You see, this man doesn't even understand the basics of administration. In every administration, there is a hierarchy. You have to go through the chain. This guy can't even understand this. And then he says he's not allowed to talk. Well, if he's not there, how can he talk? The other thing is, when he is in Parliament, what does he do? Either he creates a rumpus so that nobody can talk, or when the time for debate comes, he walks out. And then he says he's not allowed to talk. His entire campaign throughout, for almost 9 years, has been to disrupt Parliament, to make sure that the government cannot function. He has no other agenda because he doesn't know what to do. Now he goes there and tells a pack of lies. And why? I told you in an earlier video that the CIA and the George Soros pattern First, disinformation or misinformation, which is another word for a pack of lies. Spread false thoughts all over the country to make the existing person look bad, which is their intent. These lies are supposed to demonize the existing government so that the people will revolt against him. They hope. I hope the Indian electorate has enough sense to understand this. Otherwise, we in India are in a very, very bad time. You see, since 1947, Congress governments have been totally against the vast majority of people in India, which is, well, you call them Hindus if you like. Why they are so pro-Muslim and anti-Hindu, I don't know. Maybe they themselves are a Muslim family. And they would love to turn India into an Islamic country. Well, they're trying very hard to do it, especially with that Waqf Board Act of 1995. Now, what else does Mr. Rahul Gandhi say? He says that the RSS is a fascist organization. Is that so? What does the RSS teach? It teaches youngsters, look after your country, stand up for your country. Don't let anybody do you down. Hold your head up in pride. This is your country. This is fascism? In which case every American, every British national, and every European, every Russian, every Chinese gentleman, they're all fascists. And I mean Americans also. You know, every morning the flag goes up in every school. I vow to thee my country and so on. That is fascism. They are fascists, so what's wrong with us standing up for our country? I mean, this man is a ridiculous figure. And yet they want to, put this character up as the next Prime Minister. In 52 years of life, 10 years as a parliamentarian, or now almost 20 years, has he ever accepted responsibility? No. Why? Even more important, is he even an Indian national? First, let him prove his nationality. Because in 2005, in a note to Her Majesty's government in the UK, he has said he was a British national or British citizen. If that is the case, how can he be a sitting member in India's parliament? If he is a British national, he can't be an Indian national. If he is an overseas citizen of India, under that particular clause, he cannot and may not accept any job or any employment, either in the public sector or in the private sector in India. Under those circumstances, if he is a member of parliament, to become a member and to take part in that election, he has committed perjury. I think we all understand that is a punishable offence. Next, let's continue with some of the things which Mr. Modi has been doing, which our friend, his little, apology for a so-called leader, has opposed tooth and nail because he doesn't really understand it. Demonetization, for instance. I mean, if you read Sri Iyer's book, Who Painted My Money White, he tells you that 2 containers were found, each containing 5,000 crores, that's 5 billion rupees worth of fake currency notes. That means 10 billion rupees worth were discovered. But there were also another 100 of these containers, not in West Asia or something, but in India. Had those been distributed, what would have happened to the Indian economy? As it is, try and understand the side effect of this particular medicine. I call it medicine, which is demonetization. The Pakistani economy has collapsed. Does that tell you something? A, they were dealing so heavily in fake Indian currency notes that without it, they don't know what to do. They can't even pay their salaries. More important, the extent or the number of these notes in circulation was so huge that it could not all have been done by Pakistan. A lot of it must have been done here by the UPA government in connivance. People are being hauled up for it. Information is coming out. The previous finance secretary, for instance, I think Mr. Mayaram, and he is involved, so is the former finance minister, one Mr. Chidambaram. Those are the indications at the moment if you go by the news that keeps circulating. Let's see how true or how accurate those reports are. Now, one has to understand, yes, some people suffered. It is true. But a huge amount of stuff which should never have got to the market did not get there. Had it all been in circulation, where would our economy be today? Let's get this straight. Even today, when they recalled all those notes, for every 100 which the Reserve Bank of India printed, 130 have come back and they're still counting. Now you understand the extent of the fake currency notes. How did they get there? Even to this extent that many were in the Reserve Bank of India vaults. How did they get there? Unless there was government connivance, which is very strange. Now you understand why he's so against it and trying very hard to sort of remove it all and cover it all up. Now, we talked last time about self-sufficiency in defense. The army, the air force. What about the navy? Well, we're making our own submarines. And our first indigenously made aircraft carrier is now in service. But there is a problem with that. Thanks to who started the construction and planning, they haven't decided which aircraft will fit into that. Whether they'll be all deck-based, or if any of them can actually go and be stored and sort of serviced and refueled and rearmed below decks. We hope that the next one will be designed using our own aircraft. And we should know exactly how they will fit in, rather than have to go again to get outside aircraft. Now, another thing which he started when he first came in, cleaning up India. Now, you can't many people cannot understand the importance of that. The amount of disease that has been stopped. Because open air defecation, an open invitation for all sorts of diseases. Now much of that is stopped. The pharma companies are screaming because nobody wants their drugs. They're not needed anymore. And yet we from India supply more than 50% of all the drugs and medicines the world needs. We produce 70 to 80% of all the drugs needed for the treatment of AIDS. What would happen without us? Just think about it. We produce more than 50% of the world's vaccines. All because the atmosphere is such that people are encouraged to produce. In 2014, there were only 400 startups. In 2022, there were 77,000. Big increase. How come? Because conditions in India today are such that such people are encouraged. Not encouraged to go abroad and do it, but do it here. So you see, Mr. Modi has reversed the brain drain. And all your foreign countries are suffering because trained Indian talent is not going there anymore. I mean, it sounds silly, but fact, it's true. Now, what else can we expect? What else do we want in this country? You see, space research is another thing. Under the usual, the old Congress regimes, the best talent in the Indian Space Research Organization, or ISRO, was framed in collusion with the CIA. He spent 20 years clearing his name, and think what it did to our space program. Mr. Homi Bhabha, the flight he was on was bombed. Later on it turned out it was the CIA who did it. What did it do to our atomic energy program? Now, the UPA government between 2005 and 2014 banned all extraction of thorium. The research program on thorium in this country was well in advance of any other country. But this ban hit them so hard, and that thorium was now being smuggled out to China. They've overtaken us. Now, most people don't understand because they've never heard of thorium. What are they using it for? It's a replacement for uranium-based isotopes for power generation. It's much safer, much cheaper, and not nearly as dangerous when it comes to radioactivity. Now you understand what Victoria Nuland was doing in Tamil Nadu, talking to Stalin, and then in Delhi, when both your BBC documentary and the Hindenburg report were released. She was busy talking, either to Rahul Gandhi or Sonia Gandhi, directly or through emissaries, hoping that if they helped him to get into power, the USA should get thorium. Now, is she working for the US government or indirectly for the Rothschilds? You see, wherever you look, all these foreign agencies are trying to loot India, and these Congress people are helping them. Again, to loot India for a slight percentage. What is Modi trying to do? Stamp it out. Stamp out the looting. That's why all the opposition parties are so annoyed with him. Because all their avenues of making a lot of money or a huge killing are being plugged. There are no leaks. And whenever a leak is found, it is plugged immediately. So where do they get money from? Where is their power base now? Where and how do they assert themselves later? The biggest Mafia Raj state, Uttar Pradesh, the Chief Minister is going after the Mafia with a vengeance. So they're screaming. Plus, so much of the money that's looted comes into the political system. It beggars belief. And it's not just that place. You see Maharashtra. You see Tamil Nadu. You see even Punjab. What is happening? There is so much lawlessness because the Congress has never seen fit to look into it. They don't seem to want law and order to function properly. And add to that the illegal migrants who keep pouring in from Bangladesh and creating more problems for the rest of us. However, whereas the Congress government only developed certain selected states, the BJP government is going and trying to develop as many states as possible. 16 are already in the developed category. Another 17 are not far behind. They're catching up very quickly. Rahul Gandhi has never been to the Northeast, I don't think. And yet the Modi and the BJP government have gone there, set aside a lot of money for their development, something which has never happened before. UP, a classic example. It is the biggest state and the most populous state in India, and nothing was done there. Nobody even dared to go there because of the lawlessness and what is known as Mafia Raj. Today, everybody wants to go there. Why? Because they can see plainly that this man, Yogi ji, is going after the mafia, and he made it very clear. You step the other side of the line and you get the book thrown at you. You fire one bullet at the police, 1,000 will come back in answer. If there's nothing left of you, that's your problem. So you see, this particular government in 8.5 years has done so much which Congress governments have not even attempted since 1947. Now, Rahul Gandhi also says, democracy is dying in India, it was almost dead. When was his family ever democratic? Okay, let's start with his great-grandfather Nehru. How did he become the first Prime Minister of India when of the 15 provincial state presidents of the Congress, 12 voted in favor of Sardar Patel, 2 in favor of Sitaramaiah, and 1 in favor of Mr. Kripalani. Nobody wanted Nehru because they knew he was useless. Then how did he become Prime Minister? Even before that, when Netaji Subhash Bose was elected Congress President, Nehru goes crying to Gandhiji and said, no, Netaji is strongly in favor of violence. He shouldn't be President of Congress. I should be. This is democracy? Then, on November 23rd, 1948, the then Constituent Assembly wanted and told Mr. Nehru and the Government of India, please formulate and implement a uniform civil code. So why did Nehru step in and bring out a Hindu civil code? Is that what you call democracy or democratic setup? And then Mrs. Gandhi, ever heard of the emergency? That was democratic? And then the slaughter of Sikhs in 1984. Who was behind it? Orchestrated by leaders in the Congress party. People like H.K.L. Bhagat, your Sajjan Kumar, and Jagdish Taitla, who is now running around as one of the congressmen who are taking part in elections, election campaigning. This is democratic? This is democracy? And then Narasimha Rao converting and bringing out the Right of Worship Act and then messing it up with the Waqf Board Act of 1995, which in principle and in actual fact made the Shariat Act or the Shariat law the de facto law for all land dealings. Was this democracy? When 80% of the population can get dispossessed overnight. And you say you can go to the Waqf Board Act and sort of, ask them for a redressal. For what? How? Every one of those 7 on that board is a Muslim. How many Hindus have ever learned Shariat law? Why do they need to? This is democracy? I mean, come on. And this is the one you want as Prime Minister ruling this country? I hope to heaven anything happens, but that lot must never get in. Because they are just not capable of running this country in the way it should be run. As long as the Congress was in power, Indians went round being apologetic for being Indian, almost cursing the faith, why was I born in India? Today, the Indian can go abroad and hold his head up high. Yes, I'm Indian and proud of it. Why? This is the Modi effect or the Modi impact. Well, folks, for today this should be enough, but please understand the strings that are being pulled in the background. Please try and understand no matter what, we must not allow them to succeed. I mean, the Open Society Foundation is something that should never be allowed here. I don't care if you call it democratic or anti-democratic, but it should not be allowed here. Foreign money for NGOs should not be allowed. I mentioned the CPR, the Center for Policy Research. Supposedly an NGO. Why is it getting money from abroad? Is it so that foreign agendas can be pushed through there? And who heads that NGO? Would you believe the daughter of another Congress stalwart? The daughter of Mani Shankar Iyer? Yamini Iyer? I mean, look, there is a limit. You have Manmohan Singh's 3 daughters getting paid from Nalanda University via Amartya Sen. The youngest daughter is still being paid and employed by the George Soros Foundation. And now we find this one, Mani Shankar Iyer's daughter. I mean, don't they have anything more better to do? Don't they have anything better to do? Something more constructive? Something which makes sense for the benefit of this country? In a little while, I will put together a video on how all these lies, these little innuendos, and a little bits here and there that mess up policy formation, and the wrong agenda gets pushed and gets heavy backing. Why? Foreign influence, foreign funds. And trust me, what it has done to this country of ours beggars belief. And you get people sitting in Government of India and everywhere else, here, there, wherever you look. We say, what's the matter? Why should you be worried if foreign money comes in? Would you like slavery? Well, I don't. And I screamed blue murder when it was applied to me. I lost jobs as a result, yes, but I don't care. Slavery or yes-manism, yes sir, no sir, 3 bags full sir, that is not in my mental makeup. And if it's in yours, I'm sorry, I feel sorry for you. Because that is not the way a nation is built. A nation stands for itself, on its own, by its own people, standing up for that nation. And that is why all your Western powers do not like Modi. Over this Russia-Ukraine thing, the Modi government stood for its own policy and for the benefit of India. They're not there for the benefit of the US or the Western Europe. They're there for the benefit of India. And please remember, if you are Indian, stand up for India. Not apologize for India and stand up for some other country. Thanks, folks. If you like this one, please subscribe. Send on to your friends, your relatives, your groups. Ask them to send it on further. Because I think it's time we stood up for ourselves. Nobody else is going to do anything for us except try and enslave us and loot, pillage and plunder us. They did it for 200 years. The British did that. For another 200 years before that, the Mughals and raiders from abroad did it. Time to cry halt and say, look, whatever wealth there is for Indians who live in India. It is not for the British or the Americans or Western Europeans. Let's get that straight. Thanks, folks. See you next time.